warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to each and every one of you. Welcome to Funcare's Foundation very first webinar entitled Into the Chaotic Mind, in collaboration with Mercy Malaysia and with DOCERE. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Wafa, who will be responsible for moderating today's webinar. It is truly an honor to be welcoming each and every one of you. Some might wonder why the title of this webinar is Into the Chaotic Mind, right? Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, our movement has been restricted, our daily commitments have changed or shifted as well. With all the responsibilities that we carry, we tend to feel overwhelmed and mentally drained from all the things that we have on our mind. I am sure it isn't easy at all to manage and systemize our mind, which then affects the livelihood of the people in many aspects. However, today, in this webinar, we will be discussing the importance of mental health together with our honorable and experienced speakers. Without further ado, I would like to invite Funcare Foundation's Executive Director, Muhammad Sarif Razik bin Arifin, for the opening remarks. Sarif, over to you.
Thank you, Wafa. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Distinguished speakers, Funcare Foundation, Mercy Malaysia and DOCERE members, friends, family, and all the audience. Welcome to the Into the Chaotic Mind webinar. Before we begin, allow me to introduce our organization. Funcare Foundation is an organization founded by a group of Malaysian youth who are concerned about the struggles of our society, especially in terms of survival, well-being, and mental health. The main purpose of our establishment is to help Malaysia curb poverty and mental illness that have impacted a huge number of Malaysians, especially the youth. Both of these issues have become even bigger issues since the outbreak of a pandemic called COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, the current mental health crisis is an unprecedented wake-up call that's showing us how crucial it is for Malaysia to raise awareness on the issue to ensure preparedness and prevention. Many of us today have lost our livelihoods and are mentally ill due to the impact of this deadly virus. The cases of suicide in Malaysia are increasing at an alarming rate. According to the Straits Times, the police recorded 468 suicides in the first 5 months of 2021 alone. That's why it's vital for every human being to put all hands on deck to help one another during these tough times. For that reason, Funcare Foundation, together with Mercy Malaysia and DOCERE, decided to hold this webinar to raise awareness on the importance of mental health by providing the people with a safe and judge-free platform for them to express their thoughts on the said issue. Your strong support and active participation into this webinar will provide us with a deeper understanding of psychology and relate to itself and its relation to one's life. At the end of the day, participants will be equipped with the knowledge to raise awareness to the public on the importance of keeping your mind healthy. The Funcare Foundation also supports this cause as we aim to achieve victory in the fight against mental health issues in Malaysia. So everyone, take notes, take lots of pictures and post them on your social media platforms to amplify the severity of mental illness. You can also reach us via Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Do share with us your 2 cents on these platforms. I hope that you will take the advantage of this opportunity to learn from our professional and well-experienced speakers and come up with valuable recommendations and conclusions that will hopefully be beneficial to you, your family, and friends. I look forward to all of you enjoying the sessions. Thank you. Back to you, Wafa.
Thank you, Zari, for the opening remarks, and I hope you are able to benefit from today's session. Keep the comment section hyped up, everyone. Moving on, I would like to invite Dr. Swin Kenko, who is an interdisciplinary in the health system, health policies, and as well as global health, to give his opinion on the mental health issue, as well as officiating this session. Dr. Ko was initially trained as a physician. He has postgraduate degrees in internal medicine from Royal College of Physicians, public health from Berkeley, and public policy from Oxford. Also, he can say thank you in 65 languages, including sign language. Impressive, Dr. Ko. Please welcome Dr. Ko.
Hello, Wafa. I hope you can hear me. Everyone can hear me and see me well. So I'll begin by saying Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you very much for having me. Congratulations also to Funcare Foundation, as well as DOCERE, as well as Mercy Malaysia for organizing this event. When Wafa invited me to have a short speech today, and I'll only be speaking for 2 or 3 minutes before turning it back to Wafa, When Wafa invited me, I was wondering whether or not I was the right person. And in some ways, I'm not. I'm not because mental health is not something that it affects me, and it has affected a few people that are close to me as well. But I'm not a mental health practitioner. What I can do instead, in just before I officiate this particular webinar, is to make one request and to make one commitment to you. The request is that for all those who are listening in today, if you are a pemandiri, for example, or if you have some experiences with mental health, then I would encourage you to imagine that you're not alone, and also to encourage you to speak up. And my request to you is for you to understand that you have power. And when you speak up, people will be taking notice of the situation that you find yourself in. And obviously, you should speak up in ways that you feel comfortable, that you feel safe. And on my part, and the part of my colleagues and I, we will continue improving the system to make the situation safer for you. So in any words, in any case, my request to you is for you to consider speaking up in ways that you think are appropriate as well as safe. My commitment to you is that my colleagues and I will continue to work to build a mental health care infrastructure, which means things like counselors and therapists and hospitals and clinics. And that mental health care infrastructure is important. But more than mental health care is the importance of mental health. Things like no pollution, things like a proper and functioning economy with dignified jobs, with high or rather reasonable pay that you don't have to worry about making ends meet. The point I'm making is that mental health has got many components. And there are many components that doctors, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists, and medicines, and so on and so forth will not be able to fix. We will have to do it together. That is my commitment to you. To repeat again, if I may, Wafa, just before I officiate, my request is to everyone to not feel alone, that you have power. And if you speak up, we will make the situation and the environment safe for you to speak up. Because when you speak up, there is power and people will listen to you. And my commitment to you is that we will try to improve the mental health care infrastructure as well as the mental health infrastructure. Wafa and everyone else, thank you again for having me. I'm very pleased to officiate this event. I will be here for the next hour as we talk about mental health, and I look forward to the conversation. Wafa, over again to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ko, for officiating into the chaotic mind. I must say it's such an eye-opener to hear your perspective on mental health issue. Once again, thank you. For everyone else, yes, you guys are not alone. There are many contributing factors that make a mind chaotic. However, it is important to tackle it by the roots by understanding what chaotic mind is. So once we properly understand the root of the problem, we can grasp the issue more personally by relating it to current situation and to ourselves. Our first session will be from experienced doctor from PPUMKL, who is also a co-founder of DOCERE organization. He was also featured from on Star Health not long ago. Please welcome Dr. Jared.
Hello, hi Wafa. Thanks for
Hello,
having
Dr.
me.
Jared.
Hi. How you
Alright,
doing?
I'm good. I hope you're well, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, I am.
Why don't you briefly share with us about the DOCERE organization?
Right. So, thank you for first of all, thank you for having me. Actually, extremely anxious to be on here. I'm not gonna lie, which I think will be like a good segue into like what we're discussing today, mental health. I'll briefly just talk to you about what the DOCERE is all about, how it started, and then what we're trying to achieve. So the DOCERE was actually started by my brother and I, both doctors. We actually just graduated back in August, and then he's currently working in the UK. I'm currently working in KL. The whole idea came about back in third year of med school, where we realized there's a huge information disparity between the public as well as the healthcare professionals. So in that lens, things that are not explained clearly are often like left to the public interpretation on what is happening. And then in the case in what's happening right now with like COVID pandemic, I think it illustrates the point very clearly. And so we came about deciding, why don't we try to create a platform where everyday Malaysians, whether you're literate, illiterate, can try to learn more about your body itself. Try to understand what's happening with your body, that vessel that you live in a like a layman way, than the whole how medicine is being portrayed today, which is like jargony, full of all these complicated terms. And we try to do that in a fun, exciting way, hopefully to get people interested in like taboo topics, misconceptions, topics that actually like mental health, sexual health, and that's what we strive to do.
Impressive. I think we all know that if we go onto your Instagram, it is fun to look at the very informative information and bit-sized manner, like you said. As we know, this current pandemic did affect many people, especially mentally wise, right? In your opinion, Dr. Jared, I want to ask you a question. What is a chaotic mind and what causes it?
So the way I see this whole chaotic mind, I think about it in this perfectly summed up quote. I forgot who was the one who I couldn't attribute it to the person that did it. That said it is basically says, when you're stressed about the past, you're suffering from depression. When you're stressed about the future, you're stressed about you're anxious. You're anxious about what's happening. And then when you're at peace with yourself, then you're living in the moment. I think that sort of like perfectly sums up what a chaotic mind is. A lot of time, I feel like the imagination is often much more worse off than reality. And in that lens, when you look at the chaotic mind in its own, on one end of the spectrum, you have depression, and then on the other end, you have anxiety disorders. So just before we start off with the session, just want to clarify, I'm not a mental health specialist. I just happen to run a page on Instagram that tries to elucidate what happens with medical knowledge, taboo stuff, misconceptions. So everything that I speak about today, please take it with a pinch of salt. And then we're happy to answer, like on DOCERE itself, we're happy to like talk to you about like the differences between like the host of different mental disorders, the diseases, the conditions. But then do speak to like qualified psychiatrists, psychologists, who are like in a much better place than I am to talk about mental health.
All right, Dr. Jared. I believe that the purpose of this session is to share your personal experience, I would say, studying abroad and with work and during the pandemic, in the hospital situation right now, the COVID-19 pandemic. So how did it affect you mentally?
I think I've been quite fortunate in that I've had like fairly strong support network in form of my family, my friends. So I don't think it's fair for me to speak for everyone, but I can say it is an exciting journey that I'm on, seeing like people from all walks of life. Obviously, like everyone else, I suffer from. I don't suffer, but like I experience like different anxiety. I'm placed in like uncomfortable positions, uncomfortable situations where I have to learn. So I do have like times where I'm anxious, times where I'm sad, and so yeah, that's where I am.
That's great. Alhamdulillah, I would say that you're fortunate. However, we're speaking on behalf of others. They might be a little unfortunate. However, we would like to know and understand better, if we have problem with mental issues, how does it relate to our physical health?
Right. So, like I was saying just now, I like to think of our body as this vessel, whereby both physical health and mental health is like strongly interlinked. Without the healthy body, you wouldn't be able to pursue like whatever you want to achieve, with even if you put your mind to it, and vice versa. Without a healthy mind, you wouldn't be able to like put the meat vessel that your that your body is, to put them into work. And so I think they're very much interlinked, and then bringing us into like where anxiety is and then depression is. I think they're all fairly intertwined when we think about mental health and physical health.
Indeed, it is interconnected. However, many are unaware of that. They take lightly on mental health issues, and as well as some people are creating it as a taboo, not talking about mental health issues. So, in your opinion, how do you manage depression and anxiety?
Right. So, like I said, I think I've been quite fortunate, but very few occasions that I was anxious about, I think a lot of people could relate to, would be when it comes to like exam times, going to a job interview, first day of school, things that a lot of people could relate to. Like you get like anxious, and then I just want to briefly talk about like how we categorize anxiety. You have like your normal or ordinary anxiety, and then the bigger umbrella body, which is anxiety disorders. So anxiety is the feeling that comes and go, but does not interfere with your life. So let's say before your exams, you feel like you're increasing blood, you feel anxious, you feel like it stops you from doing things that you enjoy. And then on the more extreme end, anxiety disorders, which would be like panic disorder, phobia, social anxiety, and stuff like that. So how I dealt with it when I was in med school was like making sure I have like a bunch of like people that really support what I do, be it on academically, socially, and spiritually. And then on the other hand, making sure like you have like, I think having the right support network around you is extremely important. But on the introspectively, what I did was like learning how to like making normal lifestyle changes, like getting enough sleep, meditating, staying active, and then understanding where the anxiety roots from. So, for example, back in med school when we had our exams, I try to think it in a fairly logical way, whereby I try to understand where the root comes from. So, like, if it's like 10 topics of a certain chapter that I need to go to finish, then I try to like break it down, compartmentalize it, make it into bite-sized chapters before I delve into it. So that's how I sort of dealt with it.
I see. I agree with you when you say that intertwined, the mental health and physical health is intertwined with each other, and also that some people, they might not realize they have anxiety, depression, and when they do not realize that they have those or they're suffering from those, of course it's hard for them to manage the issue because they do not know about where it comes from. So what do you suggest the participants that are here with us today to do in order to overcome or to see it from the right approach, to give it a right approach?
You mean in terms of like anxiety and depression, or
yeah, in terms of managing depression and anxiety?
Like I said just now, I think when it comes to like anxiety and depression, it's sort of like back to that quote itself. I think a large part of it is identifying your stresses, your triggers. So what causes you to be anxious? What causes you to be depressed? And for example, when it comes to anxiety, I think an experience a lot of people could relate to would be, let's say, like the climate change, the political dysfunction that's happening right now, things like things that seems to trigger a lot of people and cause them to be anxious about their future. So in that lens, cultivating or like tailoring your information diet is extremely important, just so to limit your stresses and triggers. For example, let's say if you see if certain personalities on YouTube or social media causes you to be stressed about your future, your body image, yourself, then perhaps it might be beneficial to your mental health to limit your exposure to them. And like similarly in terms of like climate change or like all these other triggers, I think being aware of where your triggers are, your stresses are, is a huge part of learning how to navigate yourself in the 21st century, with the idea of keeping a healthy mental health moving forward.
I see. All right. So actually, when we started to spread out the registration form, we received quite a number of participants who asked us, what is the symptoms of depression and anxiety? How do we realize it?
Right. So, like I said, anxiety, very briefly categorizing it, and this is like a blanket statement. So you break it down into ordinary anxiety as well as anxiety disorders. So and ordinary anxiety are like things that comes and go, but does not interfere with your everyday life. And then anxiety disorders are something like a feeling of fear that stays with you all the time, could be intense and sometimes debilitating. And like I said just now, the types of anxiety disorders that fall under that umbrella would be social phobia, panic disorders, social anxiety, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorders, separation anxiety. But I think with this session itself, I think we'll just focus on ordinary anxiety itself.
Yeah, ordinary. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so like emotions characterized by feeling tense, worried about the future, worried thoughts, increased blood pressure, having intrusive thoughts or concerns, or worrying about certain situations. And then I think with anxiety itself, it's fairly well categorized. We have like all these like DSM-5 criteria, ICD-10 criteria. You can look it up, or you can just drop us a DM at DOCERE or Fun Care Foundation on IG.
Yeah, I think some of it is DAS, if you want to look up your anxiety and stress level. So after at the end of the day, it's all interrelated to each other, correct? So,
Yeah.
Talking about the current pandemic, right? Many are unaware of how staying at home actually affects us mentally. Like, okay, how you're working, right? However, there are some people who has to work from home. In your opinion, do you think they are able to cope with responsibilities, being a sister, being a mother at home while working at the same time? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's extremely tough. It's an extremely tough situation that we're placed in, unfortunate in a lot of sense, and necessary in this case. So I think from an evolutionary point of view, I think it's tough because as human beings, we're all social animals. We're used to interacting with our neighbors, our friends, our families, the communities around us to try to understand and work together towards a common goal. And so I think historically, back from the days of like when we're in the savannas, we are used to, and we have evolved in such a way that human beings need to work together so that we could build a sustainable community. So with this COVID pandemic, we're placed in like a very bizarre situation whereby everyone's isolated, connected, but sort of disconnected with social media. And so I think it's like a very tough spot that we're placed in, that people have to learn how to like deal with. And fortunately, we have like platforms like Fun Care Foundation and all these different organizations that's helping us navigate this out of this pandemic. And like what Dr. Kaur said, hopefully in the future we will be getting a lot of like infrastructures in place to help support that conversation on mental health, as well as like manage the necessary the things that that we need to do to help the community itself.
I see. That's correct. I totally agree with you. However, after all, it's hard to manage being tackling many issues, many responsibilities. What are your suggestions towards them? How do they reach out?
Um, like I said just now, I think reality is much more often. It's much more often you suffer more in imagination than in reality, and so I think making that first step is hard because we spend a lot of time imagining the responses, the consequences that might come out from making that first step, and I completely sympathize with the inability or like the difficulty with making that first step. Like I said just now, this is my first time doing like a talk of this sort of like in a formal way, and so I'm experiencing a lot of anxiety as well. But I think like making that first step, most of the time it does bring a lot of benefits when it comes to like, let's say in the realm of like mental health, reaching out to people, reaching out to friends that you might not have spoken to a long time ago, a long time. Yeah, like reaching out to people, maintaining an active lifestyle, trying to get some exercises in, which I found very, very important in maintaining a healthy mental mind in the situation itself.
Honestly, that is what I do. I feel anxious most of the time, and sometimes I do not know what to do. And when I feel anxious, what I do is I have to do something. I have to get moving. I have to keep working on something, even though that I don't have anything to do in that particular moment. I will find something to do. That is how I would say I cope with my anxiousness. So
Yeah,
that's
I
I
agree
would
with
say
you.
yeah,
No, go
because
ahead.
honestly, I do not know how to reach out or how to overcome my anxiousness other than being active. I would
Yeah.
say that I'm a psychology student myself. So I would say that it is a high functioning anxiety, which is quite unhealthy. What do you think? Because our mind is already tired, and I keep pressuring myself, doing things, taking many work, keep adding my workload, which I honestly don't think that I could commit. However, that is just how I cope with my anxiety, my anxiousness.
Yeah, I think you put me in a really tough spot here, Wafa, coming from a psychology student. So I think like I said, reaching out is just like a very blanket statement on like that people talk about when it comes to mental health. They'll say, okay, reach out to people, reach out to friends. But I'm sure like you from with a psychology background, you would agree that it really depends on the individual itself. Reaching out would come in a lot of form, whether publicly, privately, or sometimes like I'm way out of depth here with like in terms of like reaching out. But like the point I'm trying to illustrate is reaching out is just like a blanket statement that we throw out. A lot of time depends on the individual itself, your personalities, what works for you, what don't work for you, and that's. But the core concept is like speaking to people, or like reflecting introspectively might be something that works for you, might not work for you, but at the end of the day, finding that something that works for you often helps a lot when it comes with like coping with mental health.
Correct. I would say that it's easy for those who are extroverts. You know, they can easily give one call, "Hi, I have a problem. I would like to share something with you." But as for those who are very secretive, very introvert, I would say, or doesn't know how to illustrate the word to put say that, "Hi, I'm having problem." It might be a tiny problem, but it really stresses me out. It really gives me anxious. It feels make me feel anxious. So what I do, I have a friend actually. who is very anxious but doesn't know how to let it out. So what she does is she write it down. So she writes everything, she writes how she feels, and she just leave it on the table for other people to read and understand how. Because if she starts talking, she would tear up automatically. She couldn't hold it. So hence that is one of the reasons why she doesn't approach anyone or share her problem with everyone. Or probably our participants have some kind of that issue as well where they don't know how to reach out, they don't know how to express their feelings. So I feel like after all it's hard for everyone to express themselves. It all lead back to the individual itself.
Yeah, completely agree. When I was going through like my stresses back when I was in medical school, like a really close friend told me this really apt analogy on what stresses are. So he always he told, I remember very vividly, he told me about this. Imagine your brain as like a box with all your feelings, your anxiety, um, your feeling as like waves inside the box. And so imagine that closed box itself, when there's no outlet, the waves amplify because they're just hitting against the box itself, and then the box is like a closed space with no outlet. So when we talk about reaching out, that core concept is all about like providing an outlet in form of like speaking to people. For some creative artists, could be like writing music. If you like to reflect introspectively, like a friend, you write notes, you write diaries. The idea is just to provide an outlet so that the waves stop amplifying against each other, and then hopefully the amplitude reduces.
I see.
Yeah.
So what about your brother? Is he okay though in the UK? Like how does he probably reach out to you or Jared, I might have a problem. How do I share it with you? Does he do that?
Yeah. So like I said, I'm quite fortunate to have like fairly
Mhm.
close support networks.
Relationship.
Yeah, and then like we're only like a year and 3 months apart, so a lot of things that we do, a lot of experience that we go through, we could very much relate to each other. And then, especially in our lens, we went to the same school, went to the same boarding school, went to different universities, but fairly similar region. Had the same degree, um, both working as doctors now, and so a lot of experience. I was quite fortunate to have like an outlet in form of him, and then him in form of me, to really speak about to really how to like figure out how to navigate this whole landscape, because I think adulting itself is
Adulting,
complicated.
it's yeah, correct.
Yeah.
It's
So
complicated, it's hard, challenging, and to have such a mental support, I think yeah, that is one thing that people should acknowledge how important it is to have a good mental support.
yeah, and that's what I feel like what you guys are doing here with Fun Care, providing like a platform, is like really amazing. Like
Mhm.
allowing people to like speak freely about taboo topics, still taboo in some communities, mental health especially. That's what the church tries to do as well, to try to shed light on like these taboo topics, provide an outlet for people to like DM, speak to speak to people um, who might relate to their experience itself, and at the end of the day, just like try to help people navigate this landscape.
So we have actually a comment saying that I have a sister who is diagnosed with MD and it's a struggle for me to make her calm. Do you have any experience people coming to you break down? How do you overcome that? How do you
Wait,
um
sorry, I couldn't hear you clearly. You said diagnosed with MD.
yeah, MD and it's struggle for me to make her calm.
What's MD?
What's MD? Livina, what's MD? I
Is that
think
MS would be multiple sclerosis, but
uh
I'm not
I
too sure
think
what.
it's more towards psychology term, I guess.
Right.
All right. However, yeah, bring me back to the question. Does anyone come to you to seek for help or just for you to listen? How do you major depression? Oh, it's a major depression. Yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of like on DOCERE itself, we do have people that come to us and ask us, DM us and ask us like, okay, my friend is like having a tough time going through with his or her life, and how can I do about? So like we try to tell them like personally on a personal sphere. What I try to do is like try to provide a listening ear. Try to listen, hear the person out, identify what being a helpful person, being providing a listening ear, and then if the thing runs out of hand and you feel like it's becoming difficult for you, then perhaps reaching out to like a professional psychologist would be extremely useful in this sense.
So do you guys lead them to any organization, or you just merely listen to their problems?
Yeah, we do provide them a solution itself, but we also try to listen out, hear them out, what they're going through, and then whether this is a sphere where we're experienced with, we might be able to help. Otherwise, we'll just try to provide them the necessary help that's needed from a professional body.
I see. That's good. After all, that you link back to the right organization to handle this kind of issue, because major depression is, I feel like, something that is very crucial, especially that it is one of the reasons that people start to have suicidal thought, and it is very dangerous. Libina, I hope that our point just now help you a little bit, and stay strong for that. So bring me to the next question. Other than listening and provide them to the right organization, what else do you do? Do you share bit size on regarding major depression as well, or mental health on Instagram, or probably articles?
Those are some of the topics that we intend to cover. We did like a little, we covered some of them, a basic introduction a month ago, but we very much intend to continue to like shed light on these topics, the taboos, the misconceptions that people don't want to talk about, people want to swerve away from, just to provide a beacon of hope for people who are going through a tough time, that there are people on the worldwide net that sort of like understands what you're going through, and you're not alone.
Correct, you're not alone. Well, we are almost at the end of our session, actually, sadly, but I have one last question for you. May I shoot it?
Yeah.
All right. So, what would you say to all the listeners and to all the viewers that we have with us today, to those who are suffering the mental illness, or at least they think that they have mental illness but have not reached out yet, have not been diagnosed yet? What would you say to them?
I think that quote itself helped me quite a lot. With if you're stressed about the future, you're anxious. If you're stressed about the past, you're depressed. And if you're stressed, if you're comfortable, or if you're living in the moment, or if you're comfortable with where you're at, you're living in the moment. Something along those lines. I think it's a tough time for everyone transitioning into like their 20s, mid-20s, going through like a different phase of life, whether it's college, university into work, or work into marriage, or marriage into midlife crisis, and so on and so forth. It's a tough time because like on top of like the change in environment, change in pace in life, you have the added stress, the added unknown, which is the pandemic itself, with seemingly no endpoint in sight. And so I think, like I said just now, reaching out to people, you would be very surprised to know that a lot of people are going through a tough time as well, especially mentally. They might appear healthy physically, But like you said just now, physical health and mental health is very much intertwined, interlinked. And so, like what Dr. Koro said just now, sharing your experience, you'd be surprised to find a lot of people resonate with what you're going through. And then at the end of the day, having that that network or like that community of people that supports what you do, that are here to help you out, is very important. If you don't have one, building one now is not too late. If you have one, make sure that you're there for your friends, your families as well. And if you need any help, the chair is here to listen to you out.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jared. And do you mind answer one more question from our viewers?
Yeah.
All right. Ahmed Basalama asks, is the meditation helpful for chaotic mind?
Chaotic mind in form of like depression, anxiety.
Perhaps the chaotic
Or
mind,
just-
after all, leads back to anxiety and depression.
So like I said, there's very well established research management algorithms for anxiety, for what was it, anxiety and depression, and then the host of like the spectrum of disorders or like mental health that people might be suffering from. But like I said, instead of like it's very useful to speak to like a professional body itself to try to understand what you're going through, because like diagnosing a mental health disorder or diagnosing depression, anxiety itself, it's not as simple as it seems. People like doctors would do physical examinations on you. They would do question sets you fill out, and then there are criteria that you'll need to fulfill. On top of that, people are most of the time people are unaware that there are different medical conditions that can cause anxiety and anxiety or depression. For example, thyroid conditions could cause anxiety. There are respiratory diseases that causes anxiety, and so it's important. It's important to like identify whether you're experiencing anxiety as a result secondary to the medical condition itself, or whether it's a primary stressor itself. Because like, let's say if you're experiencing anxiety as a secondary to, let's say, a medical condition, then treating the anxiety itself doesn't actually remove doesn't treat the root cause itself. Treating the medical condition itself would actually be much more beneficial in treating the anxiety. So it's like a figuring out whether the chicken came first or the egg came first.
I see. Actually, you give me a whole new perspective, because I've always thought that if we manage our mind, if we manage properly, our physical health would be better. I did not realize that it starts with physical health as well. If we do not take care of ourselves, it can affect our mental health as well. So that's a whole new perspective for me. I've always related to first mental health and then physical health. It's actually almost both at the same level after all.
Yep, they're like you said just now, perfectly intertwined.
Mhm.
You just need to figure out which causes which one, and then in some cases it could be an isolated cause itself. But I think identifying where the root cause
Where it came
itself
from.
is extremely important.
All right. So we have reached our end of our first session. Thank you, Dr. Jared. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you to the DOCERE organization for collaborating with us. And I hope that what Dr. Jared have shared benefit for all the viewers today. And as well as myself, I did learn many things today. Thank you, Dr. Jared.
Thank you, Wafa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. That is the end of our first session by Dr. Jared. I hope that you guys have taken some notes. And now I would like to invite Miss Alia from Mercy Malaysia. She is a psychologist herself. So we would hear now a perspective from the mental health practitioner. Hi, Miss Alia. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, Alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah. A little bit nervous, but doing well, inshallah.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Miss Alia. After Dr. Jared have said his point of view when starting by what is chaotic mind, which then relate to anxiety, depression, in your opinion, how do you cope with it?
Okay, first of all, thank you for having me here, and I believe this is a good platform for people to have a better understanding about what is chaotic mind and how to deal with it, and how to reach out to others. Okay, so how do you cope with it? So before we start, we have to know that what is a coping strategy. So coping is a series of action or a thought process used in meeting unpleasant situation or to modify one's reaction to those situation. So it involves a conscious and also direct approach to problems in contrast to defense mechanism. Okay. So when we are coping, we hope that we are able to manage such demands coming from that stressful situations and to reduce the pain and also the difficult emotions, as well as we hope we can maintain our well-being while also adjusting to the stressful events. However, we should remember, like Dr. Jared also has mentioned this, that some coping might work for you but not for others.
Right.
So before I share more about the ways to cope with the issues, it is important to know that coping can be adaptive and also maladaptive. Okay, where the adaptive coping involve constructive and also helpful strategies that can be beneficial in managing the issues, where we can also prevent adverse effects on ourselves. Meanwhile, for maladaptive strategies, they are coping styles that can be destructive for us, especially in the long run, even though although it might provide us immediate pleasure or immediate relief, because it involves unhealthy ways of dealing with emotional issues. Okay, so to start, I would tell about adaptive coping. So the first one is to reach out to others. Okay, I know that the reality it is such a
Very
difficult
hard.
thing to do. Yeah.
Correct.
So especially the first step, to reach out to talk to someone that you might not know, as for example the therapists, the mental health professionals, and maybe to your friends. So why is it important to reach out? It is to get new insights and also fresh perspective on our difficulties, so that we can learn how to untangle the tangled thoughts and the tangled feelings or emotions that we have, so that we can face the difficulties in a much safer and also a much
Possible to have.
healthy manner and etc. So the support can come in the form of emotional support, social support, and also financial support, because some therapy or some medication needs money, right? So the financial support is also a form of support that we can receive from others. um, it might be difficult for some people, especially when you are suffering from the stigma from your family members maybe, or your friends. So it is if any one of you here who are watching have are facing with this difficulty, I hope that you do not feel alone. I hope that you can talk to the mental health professional instead. So you can call any helplines. You can try to write to any mental health platforms like this, and get a proper advice. Okay, and then so some people might wonder how to see a psychologist, right? Or how to see the
Correct.
mental health professionals.
I
So
was right about to ask that.
yeah, okay. So if in Malaysia we have several platforms that you can get help, you can get mental advice. So for example, if you wish to see a psychiatrist, you can go to Klinik Kesihatan, and then get a referral letter from the doctor, and take that letter to any government hospitals or any like centers that you would like to go, and then they will give you an appointment to see the psychiatrists or medical officers, and then you can discuss with your doctors later if you think that you need further help like psychological therapy or counseling, so you can discuss that with your doctor.
I see. So basically, like the first part is only really to diagnose and to see how crucial it is, and
Yeah.
how do they place these people, like the those who seek for help, how do they put them in place? Or this particular person needs 5 session a week, 10 session a week. So how do you guys do that?
So you mean the professionals?
Yeah, the professionals.
Okay, so that will depends on the issues because we are trained in like trying to understand the issues, the complexity, the criteria, the nature of the issues, because each individual is unique and they have different experiences. So based on the severity, based on the needs, and also the availability of the patient himself, we will decide on the progress on the process, and also the progress, like how many sessions and what kind of therapy would be done, and we can also discuss with the patient themselves. Yeah.
Okay. Is it possible to diagnose during the first session, or it has to be after multiple session only we can realize or how severity the condition is?
Okay, so it really depends on the presentation of the symptoms. Okay, sometimes the doctors might give an initial diagnosis based on the stories that is delivered by the patient. Okay, so like, oh, this condition give me an impression that she might have this and this. Okay, but then later on, throughout the process, throughout the treatment, the diagnosis might change, because the diagnosis is a dynamic thing. So later on, when we discover when we discover a lot more based on the background history, or based on any other added symptoms, we might change the diagnosis. Yeah.
Okay, so it's possible to change over the time as we
Yes.
follow by the session. So I think you mentioned just now about social support and personal support, correct?
Yeah.
What is the difference between the personal support and social support?
Yeah, I mentioned about emotional support and also social support. So social support
Emotional
means
support, yeah.
you might want to talk to your friends, talk about things. Maybe you don't want to talk about the issues. Maybe you just want to be with someone, and go out and like you do things together, you do activities together, but not necessarily you talk about it. So emotional support is where you discuss about your issues, you ask for help, particularly for that issues. Yeah.
I see. So I would like to know, being a psychologist, right? How many participants have come to you like very critical condition to the extent that they have suicidal thoughts, and how do you handle those things?
Oh, such a tough question. Okay. I can't remember really how many of them have come. But it the situations are different. Like I say, every individual is unique. So how I handle it is based on the clients. So it is specialized thing. So this for example, client A needs this approach, client B needs this approach. So it really depends. Yeah. So I would listen to them first and calm themselves, and then it is important to check their safety first, because we don't want them to be in a such dangerous situations before we start our treatment and session. Yeah.
I see. So Wow, that's hard when I can imagine actually talking about how someone come to you, but the condition is really bad, like they have suicidal thoughts, and how dangerous could it be for having mental disorder?
How dangerous.
Yeah, how dangerous it can be.
We never know what's gonna happen to them. Yeah. So we just focus on that moment. So like focus on like listen to them because they reach out to us for a reason. So we have to be present and be non-judgmental. We have to listen to what they are going to say, and then proceed from there. Yeah.
So when you're talking about dangerous, is it like dangerous mentally that they could like manipulate you or like physically? Which one?
Okay, because they are suicidal. So when someone is suicidal, they would mostly they would think only about themselves, only about their struggles. So um, they might be too indulged in their negative thoughts, like their poor self-image or poor self-concept, that they might harm themselves physically. Yeah.
So those are if they seek for help, right? But what if they don't seek for help? What can impact them? In what way can it impact them?
Okay, so the the effects of the issues, is it?
Mm, yeah,
Okay,
for not seeking
so
help.
sorry for not
The
seeking for
effects, yeah,
help.
for not seeking professional help.
Okay, so the actually like Dr. Jared also mentioned that the systems in our body work inter they are interrelated. So the effects would be on various aspect, where such as emotional, social, cognitive, behavioral, and also physical. So in terms of emotional, they might have they they might not be able to enjoy the life, so they would not enjoy the things that they used to do. They might feel empty. They would have poor self-concept. They hate themselves. They feel that they are such a useless person. And so that is in terms of emotional effects. While in socially, they might start to isolate themselves, and it might cause family conflicts, difficulties in relationships, and they might become an irritable person, where they can get angry easily at a very small thing. And other than that, they might have difficulty to make decision, and becomes more forgetful maybe, and also have difficulty to organize and also plan things. And they also would have difficulty to concentrate while doing things, especially those that require high mental capacity. And other than that, okay, so when someone has abandoned the problems, they might have sleeping difficulty. So this include difficulty to fall asleep, like, or they might sleep a lot. They might not have uh, a good quality of sleep, or they might have woken up for so many times at night. So, and they might also get themselves into substance abuse, like get
What is substance abuse, if I may
okay,
ask? Yeah.
okay, like taking drugs or smoking, yeah, things like that. So some people would go into that because it might give them like immediate pleasure, but in the long run, and we also know that it causes a negative impact on our physical health. So that is in terms of behavior. While physically, when you ignore the emotions, when you ignore the difficult and painful emotions, um, sometimes it will come in a physical pain, like you feel tension in your muscle, or you can have headache, you have difficulty to sleep, and you might feel restless, and also maybe you have heart palpitations. So we have to know that the effects can come in many ways. Yeah.
I think you have shared many of the short-term impacts, right? What about in the long run?
In the long run.
Yeah, in the long run, like
Okay.
effect in the long run. Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes people might get too numb to pain, like they
Get used to it.
they get used to it. So they will continue the cycle. They don't try to break the cycle. So the same thing will happen again and again and again, because they don't break the cycle. And the physical effects would be the most obvious thing, I would say, because your body loves you a lot. So when you ignore the emotion, the issues that you should have addressed earlier, so it will come in a different way. It's like your body is want to tell you, oh, listen to me, listen to this emotion, it's telling you something, so do something about it. Yeah. So they might, a high level of stress can cause you can increase the risk to physical illness. So that would be the effects, the long term effects of having untreated these untreated issues. Yes.
I see. That's really hard actually. You know, people are so focused on being during that particular moment and not focus what are the long run effect if we don't seek for professional help. So I guess that it is really important to seek for professional help. And other than that, in your opinion, in the long run effect, does it affect entirely ourselves or it affects people surround you as well?
Okay. So it is the same thing as the short term effects that I mentioned before, like where it can affect your social relationship with others, your emotions and all. So when you become numb to your pain, and when you start to isolate yourself, you get used to it. You think that, oh, isolating myself is something that something good to do. So you will begin to cut off relationship with others. You will talk less to others. You will affect your relationship with your friends. Your friends might think you are abandoning them. So and you started to live alone in your own world, like yeah. So that is, and people might also not understand you. So like they don't know, why are you doing this, why are you isolating yourself. So they will start to have misunderstandings, so this will also affect the relationship in the long run. Yeah.
I see. Those who are actually isolating themselves, how do they cope with it? Is it through adaptive or maladaptive way?
Okay, isolating oneself, it depends on the individual. Some people isolate themselves to to manage the issues on their own first, and then when they find it so unbearable, they might reach out later. So some people isolate to, like, maybe they prefer to write a journal. They prefer to do things, maybe they are reserved. Okay. But it might cause harm when you feel like you feel like people, it might cause harm when you feel when you feel like you don't need others anymore. In fact, we are social animals. Humans are social animals. We really need others to function. So we need others to in our daily life, even though it's not related to the emotional issues, but we need others to function. We need our family, we need our friends. So when someone isolated themselves for too long, they might change the nature of themselves. Okay.
So overall, it's just being there for each other, being in their presence help in many ways, and
Yeah.
not entirely listen to them, but just be physically with them. Does that help though? If we don't actually, sometimes when people come to us, right, we don't know how to respond to them. We don't know how to react. So what are the people should do? What should we do in order when
So
people come to us and I have a problem. Um I have I'm stressed. I'm anxious. So how do I help her or him?
okay, I think this is one thing that every one of us at least have faced this once in their lifetime. So
Probably many times.
yeah, and okay, what should we do when someone come to us and say that they need help? Okay, so the first thing is to be present, to listen to what they are going to talk, and listen not with the intention to reply, but listen to understand them. Sometimes they don't need any advice, sometimes they don't need you to say anything about it. They just need an outlet to talk about their emotions, to talk about their stories, to talk about their pain. So listen to them, and when you don't know what to do, you can ask them, okay, what kind of help do you need? Okay, so so that we can provide things that they need, so that we don't provide things that we don't give advice like suka hati je, and it might cause harm for them. And what the other things that you can do is, maybe if you think that they need professional help, you can go to the clinic with them, so accompany them. That is also something that is meaningful for them, yeah, to face the issues.
I see. So I have a question actually. It got me thinking. Is it not advisable for us to give suggestion or advise them, or is it totally wrong for us to do so?
Okay. Okay, what will happen when you give advice is okay, it depends on the situations. When they ask okay, if we give them advice and they do it and things goes wrong, so they will blame you. So it will backfire at you. So when you are not sure about something, it is better for them to ask for professional help, or you can say that you are not sure, or your suggestion should be like, oh, you might want to see a psychologist to talk about this, because I have lack of knowledge about this, so I might not give you what you need. So you can say that instead of giving suggestion. Yeah.
I see. So we can link them back to the professionals and not giving them entirely a suggestion that
Yes.
could backfire us someday. So when we are going to counselor, but how do we know? It's either should we send them to the counselor or should we send them to psychologist? What's the
see.
difference between counselor and psychologist?
Okay. Usually, counselor will in counseling session, you will discuss about daily stress, daily difficulties. While for psychologists, usually they will see people with mental illness, but however, you can also see therapists or psychologists when you don't have mental illness. So in psychology session, you will do activities, you will do exercises, you will learn how to identify the triggers, or you will learn to modify your cognition. You can restructure your cognition, the way you think, the way you see things. So and both both counseling and also psychotherapy are there to give you insights. So but they might have different ways where the counseling session it's more like a problem focus.
I see.
Like
So more
yeah.
one-way conversation, or they are allowed to give suggestion and how to overcome, give them advices perhaps. Are they allowed?
In counseling they will guide you through it. Well, in psychology they are there to walk the journey with you. Like they provide they they lead you to that thing without telling you what is it, without telling you the answers. So they provide insight about and how to go to that destination instead of giving answers or suggestions. Yeah. So that will be done through activities, through therapies, depending on the issues.
Alright, I see. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. I am surprised that we are actually not allowed to give suggestion and advices. If someone comes to me, I will definitely, oh, you should do this, yada yada yada, you know. Actually, on the comment section, we have a question saying, what is the common stigma in Malaysia that make person with mental health issue not to seek help?
Most common.
Yeah, most common stigma. Why?
Okay,
What are they scared of? Why it is taboo for them to seek professional help?
Okay, statistically, I'm not sure about the most common stigma, but the things that I often see is the stigma that when you see a therapist, when you see the professionals help, you are crazy, things like that. You are weak. But instead, when you see someone, you talk about your issues, you talk about your personal stories, you are a strong person, because it takes a lot of courage to talk to a stranger about the issues, to face your fear, because when you see the professionals, you are actually trying to confront the issue instead of letting it to harm you today or later on. So the stigma is that they are weak. Why do they need someone's help when they should do it on their own, and things like that.
Okay, so they are more towards scared of being labeled by other people
Yeah,
or
the level.
by the therapist probably. So, so that's hard when it is a taboo for them not to seek help and scared of being labeled by other people. Doesn't that um make them feel down and will never go to and seek help?
Yes, indeed. So
Kan?
yeah, it is very important to seek help, because I think life is like a labyrinth where you are inside the labyrinth, and at times, at one point you will get confused when you are facing the intersection. You don't know which path to choose. You don't know which direction to go. So that is why you need someone from outside the labyrinth um, to see you where you are right now, to see you, okay, what is in front of you, which direction you should go, and at which point did you start to go astray. So that is why getting help and also seeking for further information about your issues is such a good step and an important step to take whenever you feel like you are not being yourself anymore.
Yeah, especially when you feel like you're in need, right?
Yes.
Another question we have from Levina. Back in those days, when my sister only depend on medication, in her mind she told me to stop the voices she needed to stop taking the medicine. Is that advisable? So
Sorry,
perhaps
Jap.
that she mentioned just now she has a major depression disorder. The sister
Yeah.
has a major depression disorder, and
Okay, but
inside her mind, she listens that the voices ask her to stop taking medicine. Is that advisable?
okay. So
Perhaps the question
the
is what can we do, or perhaps the question would be, what can we advise them when they keep hearing the voices inside their head?
Okay, this is such a difficult situation to handle because the voice is inside the sister's mind, and we cannot even imagine how does it feel like to listen to the voice and to listen to listen to something that is I would say the voice is trying to say that she should not take the medication when she actually should. So the things that the sister that Lebina can do is to that the sister can have a discussion with the doctor and the medical professional or mental health professionals, because this has involved psychosis or like hallucination, auditory hallucination, where she hears voices. Right? So the sister can be there for her, and yeah, in this situation she should take the medication, but I know that it might be hard for her because there are voices. So this thing really needs attention from the mental health professionals. Yeah, so it's best to take her to the doctor or contact the clinics or hospital. Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard, every time she might have to take medicine 3 times a day. Does that mean we have to go and call the clinic every time she has to take the medication, or perhaps is there any other way that we could actually help?
Okay. Usually the voices they have themes to the voices. So it is important to discuss with your doctor during your appointment so that you know what to do later on when that happens again in the future. So the things that the sister can do is to be with her and okay, this is such a difficult situation.
Yeah, I feel it's hard to just to be there as well. It's hard because we do not know what she's hearing, other than like, oh, the person is asking me to stop taking medication, but why? We don't know that. Probably they don't want to share because they are scared. So it's hard for Levina herself, and it's hard for her sister as well to be hearing voices and doesn't know which one to hear. Perhaps we could moving on to the next question that we have by Sufia Zainal. Are introverts more prone to depression and mental illness?
I honestly think that we shouldn't generalize this because some introverts might have a good coping, while some do not. So we should not generalize these situations into the introverts or extroverts, because each individual is unique. In introverts and okay, let's say an introvert and also an extrovert, they might have similar experience in life. So we cannot say that, oh, the extrovert one will not have mental illness because they are extrovert. So and also we cannot say that this introverted person will have mental illness because she is introvert. So I think like it is important not to generalize mental illness to any population or their personality. Yes.
I understand. So moving on to the next question, we have from Amir Irfan saying, how can we encourage certain parents to change their mindset towards the stigma of mental illness?
Okay.
That's quite crucial.
Yes. This is something common. Like we often hear this, like the stigma comes from own family members, and stigma happens when people don't understand things. So we often feel afraid of things that we cannot understand, like things that we don't understand. So the key here is to learn more about the condition, learn more about mental health. So like what everyone is doing here right now, you are learning more about what is mental health, the criteria, the symptoms, the how to cope with it, and the importance of reaching out. So when you start to understand, you would know that you might not understand them because they are having you are not in their shoes, you don't know what's on their plate, and you cannot go inside their minds. So but instead to have to like I said that
To make it easy for the parents to understand, how do we do that?
okay, parents can have more readings about it, or you can ask their children about it. But maybe asking them needs a specific way. I mean, like, do not ask like why are you like this? I don't understand. You have everything. Why do you need to have mental illness when you are well taken care of by us? Things like that. That is common. So what they can do is to be present, and to be less judgmental, because the children might have difficulty to talk about it because they get the impression that the parents will not understand. So it is important to appear that you are trying to understand them, and you are trying to be there for them, to help them. Yeah.
Okay, let's say
And
like,
yes.
oh, sorry. Let's say right, they are seeking for professional help. Their kids. Are the parents allowed to join the counseling session or the therapy session though?
Okay. Usually the therapist will ask the clients, the patient, whether they are okay if the parents is there, so that the session will not be affected, because sometimes although they are our parents, we have things that we don't want them to know, and even parents have things that they don't want us to know. So this is a discussion between the client, the therapist, and also the parents. So they maybe the session will be done on the client individually first, and then if the issue is related to the dynamic between the family, they might want to do family therapy where they will involve the parents with them. Yes.
Okay, a last question from me. So because we are already almost reaching towards the end of today's webinar, so perhaps you could share with us the importance of seeking for help.
Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, like when you feel stuck, you might not see what's in front of you. You will get blinded with the painful, the difficult emotions, the complicated feelings that you have right now. So you might feel like you have nowhere to go. So that is why it is important to have someone outside the situations, where they can see in a different perspective from you, because your perspective is only your issues, and the other person's perspective is much bigger. So that is why it is important to seek for extra information or seek for help from others. But I believe it is a very difficult thing to do, because of the stigma, because of the things that we are afraid of. So maybe you can start with writing first, or thing like a small thing, take
Right,
small
start
step.
somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we end this session, what is that you want to tell the participant and the viewers that are watching our live right now?
Okay, I would like to share here that to imagine our mind as a house. So sometimes emotions come, the painful, the difficult emotions come. So we have to treat them as a guest, treat them as a friend, sit with them and talk to their emotions. And when it's time to leave, when it's time for them to leave, let them leave. So that is how we can manage and we can live our life here and now, and not focusing too much on the past or not focusing too much on the future. And from time to time, it is important to do spring cleaning, like how you are taking care of your house. So you can do spring cleaning. Why is it important to do spring cleaning is to see if you need something, if you still need something, or maybe you don't need this anymore, maybe this is not relevant anymore, maybe you need to throw out these thoughts and things like that. So I would suggest everyone to do that from now on. Yes.
I hope everyone is taking note on that, perhaps. And thank you, Miss Alia, for saying yes to this program. Thank you for sharing your perspective and your all of the things that you have shared today. I hope that everyone can learn from it and start somewhere to seek for professional help. Thank you, Miss Alia. Have a nice day.
Thank you for having me.
Unfortunately, we have reached the end of today's webinar. We hope you are able to learn many important things today that might be beneficial for you and your mental health. Any inquiries or concerns, you may reach us via Instagram at Funcare Foundation. Also, you may email us at info@funcare.net. Our sincere apologies if we aren't able to answer your questions today. However, Funcare Foundation will come with many more beneficial events in the near future. So don't forget to follow us on Instagram to be updated. As you can see in the comment section now, there is a link that will bring you to the feedback form. So don't forget to share your thoughts regarding this webinar as we can improve on our upcoming events. Please join me, everyone, once again to thank our honorable guests and speakers, Dr. Ko, Dr. Jared, and Miss Alia. Not to forget, thank you to all audiences for listening attentively as well. From me and the whole Funcare Foundation's team, would like to remind you to stay home and stay safe. Thank you.